Well, I have chosen the topic of the big wave. And the reason I decided to do this was because when I had this awakening in 2012, all of the information that I was writing was all about what was coming. And I didn't understand astrology and how the planets had to be aligned a certain way, and just all these events that were coming. And when I would write this information, I would go back and read it, and I didn't understand a lot of it. So I was going to different people trying to like, do you understand what I'm writing here? And nobody around me understood it either. And I had a patient's family member in the hospital where I work. He was on a laptop one day writing something, and I just, through conversation, he was telling me he wrote books, and I just asked him questions about, that process. And I was telling him what experiences I was having, and he told me that, well, why don't you try a blog? I'm like, what's a blog? I didn't even know what a blog was. That's how out of touch I am with this stuff. So to make a long story short, I started putting this information on my blog first, and it got lots of views, and people were individually responding to me, and I still don't understand how it all works. I didn't even know you had followers on a blog. Who knew? But anyway, to fast forward, all the information that I write has to do with what's coming. The purpose of today is to share what information I have been given up to this point, because a lot of people have a lot of questions as to what I'm being told is called the event. I have not been watching news, TV, any of this stuff up until recently. And I was surprised to find that there's this event, and people kept having dates of when this is going to happen. And what I have been told is that it's a process. It's not one big thing that's going to happen. There's going to be what we call, I always view it like the ocean. You have these little waves that come up to the shoreline, and out in the distance you see this big wave that's coming, and by the time it comes to you, it's just this nice little wave that hits your feet once it hits the shoreline. So that is how it's been described to me, of what this energy source is going to be that's coming. And it's actually here, and it's continuously coming through us. And it's building us up into what is called the big wave, because we're getting filled up, I guess is the right word for it. We're getting pieces of that energy source because we cannot handle it all at one time. And this has been happening, and some of us have more of it than others. And as we go through this process, I wanted to break down this information. This is some pretty intense information, and I went through a lot of my writings to pick out the most important things. And I first decided to focus on what are called the principles. The principles are very important in this process that we're going through, because they carry out the laws of the Creator. And if you go to some of my past videos, you will see that I have been given visions of what these sources, these players in this event are all about. And we have the Creator that is above the principles, and the principles are the ones that are supposed to carry out the laws of the Creator. But the problem is the principles are at war. And what does that mean for us? That means that these principles are looking at our intentions and comparing them to our actions. And if your intentions are different than your actions, that's where the confusion lies. And all of this has to be through free will. And because the principles are at war, I have defined them as the light and the darkness, because this is energy, and energy cannot be destroyed. It just changes forms. And the denser energy is darker, and it's more separated from the creator. And the information is not pure. And what happens when your intentions and your actions are different, the knowledge that is going to be coming through you is going to be confusion, and it's going to be darker information. And these principles that are at war are taking advantage of that. They are wanting to control us. The darker forces are here to control us, and they have kept us under control for thousands and thousands of years. Now, I was not one who was into what the alien agenda or any of that stuff was, but I have seen visions of this playing out, and it is very disturbing. And as I go through the rest of this, I'll explain a little more about that. But these dark forces are here to keep us in fear so that they can live longer in this dimension. They are losing their I guess, their life force to be in this dimension that we are in. And there's a big separation that's occurring as a result. And as I've said in other videos, and I'm trying to learn how to articulate this to the best of my ability, because it's been a process for me to learn how to vocalize the information that's being told to me. As we go through this process, the darker forces are even harder at work to keep us in fear. And even the most menial task that you do in a day is very important with your thoughts and your emotions, because we are constantly working towards enlightenment. And enlightenment means that we're gathering that knowledge inside of us so that we can find out the truth of who we really are. We have been under control for so long, we don't even know who we are anymore. So on the next slide, I have a breakdown in the diagram form of what the principles do. Whether they be good or bad, this is what role the principles play, and they get their information from the Creator, but they can choose not to provide the proper information if they're from a dark source. So the principles carry the knowledge down into the spirit. And the spirit is what I'm being told is through what we call the pineal gland, the third eye. It brings that down into our thoughts and emotions. And for a long time, I didn't know what that was. All I could visualize was it was some kind of sponge that was sitting in the middle of our brain, and I didn't know what that was. But recently, it has been revealed to me that that is what we call the third eye. I did videos on that as well, but that's another story. So this is what's happening, and the principles are at war. And I want to focus a minute on, with the next slide, of our Creator. And this is very important to keep in mind as we move forward with this information. Always remember that you're constantly exchanging knowledge with your Creator that holds all stimulus for all souls. Now, remember I said there's a dark and a light energy. There's all these different colors of energy levels that we carry. And depending upon what level your conscious state of existence is on, is what your light color is going to be. And as your awareness grows, your colors change because you're evolving into the lightness of your creator. And all the knowledge comes from the principles or the creator. And your energy changes with your awareness. So your colors are going to be constantly changing as you evolve. And that's why I try to only take the pure knowledge from my creator. And how do I know it's my creator in comparison to a different type of source? It's because this is knowledge that I hold for the betterment of all. I don't just want it for myself. I want to share what I know for all of us because we are all one. And I also know that it has healed me physically, emotionally, and mentally. And I'm constantly working towards that connection every day. And that's something that I'm constantly in check with what my intentions are and what actions I take as a result of what my intentions are. And that's what the higher realms see. They see our colors. They know what we're doing at all times based on our colors. And if your colors are dark, they know your intentions are not pure. So on the next slide, this is how I visualize our creator. I call it the Godhead. The creator for me expanded out into all these different levels of existence. And through that, I have a specific connection that goes back to the creator, that I have a likeness with, like specific animals. That's what they call your animal spirit per se, specific plants, specific people. Everything in my world is an extension of what part I am expressing of what my creator is for me. And that will go through the entire universe. Some people are saying they're connected to the entire universe lives within inside of them, which technically speaking, if we come from the creator of all, then we hold all of that inside of us. And we're multidimensional, and the possibilities are endless of what we're capable of. And as we continue to awaken, people are saying, you know, our DNA is being activated. What does that even mean? I'm not that savvy in that part of it, but I know that I have been given visions that our physical bodies are going to be changing as we evolve. And this is just one of the visions I wanted to share with you of that. Now, the next slide is the concern that the universe has for us. And I tried to break down this vision to the best of my ability of the light and the darkness. And you have so many people who are in the middle of uncertainty. And why should we care about that? The planet is broken down into so many different levels of energy that are dividing into the light and the darkness per se. And you have all these people who are in the center who are uncertain, and they are not sure which direction to go in. Do they have do they believe in a higher power? Do they not believe in a higher power? And we have free will that we can go in any direction we want. And what's been revealed to me is this is part of my mission, because I was one of those. I actually was down on the bottom. I was no belief. And then as things started to change in my life, I moved into the uncertainty. Well, I'm not quite sure what I believe. And what's happening with this transition we're going through, what we call the big wave or the event, is that everything is going to be revealed. And I don't want to make this video too long, but the next slide, I broke it down to the best of my ability of what is going to happen with us. The uncertainty holds a mixture of darkness and light that blends into what you consciously hold within your thoughts. Now, in the final days, the blending of the darkness and the light are going to become one. And that's going to be for the entire planet. And it has not been revealed to me of how that's going to occur, other than I know that all of the planets, all of the universe, and I have written that over and over, all of the universe has to be aligned a specific way for this to occur. And it's a gradual process that's leading up to that as it fills us up. And what's going to happen is that all fears will become conscious so that they can be renewed. We have to do what we call a cleansing. And I was provided these 10 components to help those who are uncertain to be able to look at their fears so they can remove them. Doing an inventory of ourselves is the last thing we want to do. We want to look outside of ourselves and think that this event is going to change my world. This is an inside job. This is something that has to come from the inside out. And if you are not looking at yourself and you are not working on your fears, what's going to happen is the unveiling that's coming is inside the thoughts. And all of the thoughts are going to manifest into your view, which they do now, but people are not consciously aware of it. I mean, you can think of someone and then all of a sudden there they appear in the day, or they call you on the telephone. That's not a coincidence. There are no coincidences. And all the truths will be shown. Good, bad, whatever they are, all of it is going to be shown. And it's already happening in our political arena, in the media. The media is just full of, like, I don't even watch the news or anything, but I unfortunately hear it through my day with some of my coworkers of what's going on out there. All of the truths are being shown, and I'm told that by the year 2020, 2021, it's going to be mind-blowing of just what our truths really are. And there's going to be many sights and wonders that will be seen. And that's already happening with our volcanoes are speaking for what Mother Earth is going through right now. All of this is leading us up to we're not even going to be able to mentally comprehend what's coming. Now, one thing that was really hard for me to accept is how all physical forms will change into their truths. And as my Creator was talking to me, I call it the God of my understanding. I was really, I was writing all this and I was arguing with myself that I don't understand how this can happen. And I was shown visions through people standing in front of me of how they physically formed into what their truth really is. And some of them were very dark forms. I saw some people turn into what looked like demonic beings. It was very scary for me. And I actually prayed not to have that discernment for a while because I did not want to know. And it's been a gradual process to bring me back to where I'm in acceptance of what is coming. And another thing that's going to happen, all lives lived will be remembered at one time as we evolve. And for those who don't believe in reincarnation, technically speaking, this is not like reincarnation, but it is. You can define it however you want, but everything's happening all at the same time. And if we go back to our Creator is experiencing multidimensional lives all at one time. So as we move forward, we are going to be able to remember all those lives at one time as we connect with our Creator. And another thing which people are starting to see more and more of, those called ghosts, demons, devils, and the dead will be seen to show their truths. everything is going, all of the veils are being lifted. We have been protected up to this point, but we are evolving into a level of understanding that we are going to have to accept and see everything for what it really is. And that's why those who are uncertain of where they are at and they're not cleaning out their belief systems and their thoughts and the things that they've done in their life, it's going to be very difficult for a lot of people. And I'm already seeing the colors in the air, the different types of colors that go through the wind. And it's absolutely beautiful what it is. And I can be in meetings and I'll just see it come through the room. It's absolutely beautiful. And the making of the moment will be understood. You'll be able to see it, everything that's being made. And I already see the beams of light that come down that make the trees, that surround people, objects. It's so hard to articulate what I see. And it's more than just an aura. It's actually the making of this dimension that we're in, because I see the sparkles at the same time of how it's all forming. And when I look up into the sky, I can see the sparkles dancing in the sky as everything is forming. So I don't know what people think about that, and what you think will become what you are. It's very important that you keep positive thoughts, and I have a really hard time with that. I have a lot of doubts about this information even that I'm being provided, and why I have to be in front of a video to even do this stuff. But I have to share what's being given to me, and I believe that this is part of my mission. And I'm being shown this stuff for a reason. And no matter how crazy it may sound to people, and there are a lot of people that look at me like I am crazy, but I'm just sharing what I know. And I have nothing to gain from any of this other than to be able to evolve and connect with the God of my understanding. That's everything that I'm about right now. You're going to hear the tones behind the sounds. And if you take some time, you can already hear it. There's a constant humming sound in the making of the moment. And the spirit is only in the now. So what you're thinking about from yesterday or what might occur tomorrow, that's all the illusions. So you have to keep yourself present in the moment so you don't miss any of this. It's a beautiful process. And we chose to come here to experience this. And a lot of people are just caught up in the illusions of what's happening on this planet. And that's the intentions of the dark principles that want to keep us in self-bondage. Because we have free will. We can break away from that whenever we want. We're doing it to ourselves. And we are responsible for what we think and what we feel. And it is ultimately up to us of what we are going to do with the knowledge that we hold. The expression of the God of my understanding that I want to bring out into this dimension is something that only I am responsible for. There's nobody going to save me. Nobody's going to come and help me. This is something I have to do. And I think all the experiences in my life prepared me for this. The smells will reflect negative or positive energy sources. What does that mean? There are times I can be with someone and I smell the faint scent of roses, per se. And I know that I'm in a good place. When I smell something rotten, and if you pay attention and you keep thinking about the making of the moment, there's a smell that comes with it too. You know, are you smelling a foul smell? Be pay close attention to your senses. They're going to tell you a lot. And your sense of touch will be heightened as you become aware of the spaces within the spaces. And I already feel that. There are times that I'm so sensitive to walking into a room somewhere that it goes through my entire body, that I may end up having a hot flash, or the chills, whatever is going on. And I have to be in tune to what I'm feeling. And keep in mind, through this process, don't believe everything you think. You have to be in touch with your body and feel it first. And let your heart lead the way into what you're going to think. And the best part of all of this, a feeling of floating like you're in water. There are days I feel like I'm walking on air. I'm floating through my entire day. And all of this information comes from a lot of my different writings and a lot of things I've experienced. And I'm not presenting anything to you that I have not lived through. And I'm very careful making sure that my words and what information I'm providing to you is accurate for me. Whatever resonates for you is for you to keep for yourself. If it does not, that's okay too, because we're all unique in our own way of where we're going in this process. And a lot of people are looking for it on the outside. And I have been told it's an inside job. And if you want to take a look at the 10 components that I've been given that will help cleanse you to prepare for this process, it's been written in many ways throughout the centuries. And I'm just putting it in a format of what I lived through, because I came from a very dark place to get here today, to be able to share this information with you. So thank you.
You said something at the end. If you want to know what steps to follow to cleanse yourself, please do me a favor and explain that. Is this something you presented? You said it's been presented over the centuries, etc. Be specific about what you're referring to, because someone like me might ask, wait a second, what are those steps? What do I need to do in order to do that?
I have published it in a book, The Flow of Change for the Soul, where I have all these diagrams that were given to me through visions. And the 10 components are what I call the flow of change for the soul. And that is what I went through to be able to reach an understanding of these higher realms and communicate with the God of my understanding.
So what do you say to someone who says, oh, so you're just presenting this so you can sell your book?
I'm definitely not in this for the money. I'm not making a dime off of any of this.
And if I didn't want to buy your book, is there somewhere that you have this information that I can find it?
I have my blog. You can go to my website, inthemindofsomethinggreater.com, and the links to all of my information is there. I do a thought for the day every day, and it's to share what I have learned for that day. And I put it on all of social media. And I have 2 books that I have published, and I'm not making a profit off of any of this. Actually, I'm financially struggling, being a bleeding heart do-gooder social worker that I am. Any extra monies that I have, I try to put towards providing the world with this information. And that was one of the promises that I made, was that I would tell the world about what's given to me. And that is exactly what is happening since my awakening in 2012.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to slide 1 where you talk about the principles are at war.
Yes.
Okay, first of all, I want to point out that the way I understood this, and this relates to some other reading that I've done, but you have the creator, source, right, the Godhead, etc. And I'm going to frame this from a standpoint of a hierarchy where it is at the top.
It is a hierarchy, yes.
And these principles are right there, kind of like the first line executives in charge, if you will. So from an organizational chart perspective. So these principles, as I understand it, span the continuum from light to dark. Yes?
Correct.
Okay. So you say that they're at war. Are they really fighting with one another, or are they just expressing different aspects of creation?
What's happening in physical form, we're playing out the war in the spiritual realm. And it's working because we are the vessel for this war. And they're not up there fighting amongst themselves. They're doing it through us. They might sit up there and be all nice with each other, just like, I guess, in the political arena. They're going to sit at the same table and be all nice with each other, and then they're going to go do what they want to do.
Okay, I've heard that expressed as us being in for example, being in a proxy war. In other words, we are, as you refer to us as the vessels, we are doing the warring as proxies on their behalf.
Correct.
Okay.
And we're choosing to do it. And a lot of people don't even realize that we're choosing it. That's what the big wave is about, is to wake us up and say, hey, this is a choice you're making, and to educate us, because with knowledge comes power. And a lot of people don't even realize that this is what's occurring. But as we're waking up, we're understanding that, wait a minute, something's not right here. What is this? And that's why it's coming to us in stages, because we're not going to be able to handle the whole truth in one big way, per se, of knowledge. Because there were periods I had to say, wait a minute, I can't handle anymore. And I had to take a break. I'd had my head filled with so many things where I channeled so much. I wrote 2 books within like a 2-year period. I mean, I went nonstop. I would go to work, I'd come home, I'd write. I probably averaged 2-3 hours of sleep at night. And it reached a point when I realized that I'm here as a messenger for the book of Revelations. That sounds crazy. A little girl in foster care. But that's what this is about. I'm to help. I'm part of that mission. And more people are waking up realizing that that's what we're doing. We're standing up and realizing that we've been puppets and we don't even know it.
So as people become aware, as they wake up to this, what's so often called an illusion that we're living, when they become aware, now you had the benefit of having guidance, whether it was communicated to you telepathically or however you got those thoughts, whatever guidance you got in whatever way you got it. You mentioned that you needed to take a step back and kind of take a break from it for a while so you could integrate it before you proceeded. So how is this going to happen for the rest of humanity?
It's going to be the same way. Everybody is going to go through exactly what I went through.
So then why are people writing books and doing seminars and things like that if it sounds like everybody's going to have their own personal tutors?
Because it's becoming more known. And when I was going through this, I didn't even know that anything like this existed. And now that people are starting to vocalize and say, hey, this is what happened to me, more people are going to get more comfortable with saying, well, wait a minute, I'm going through that too. And that's why I'm speaking out, is because I didn't have anybody around me who understood what was happening to me. And I want to be able to help those that are waking up, and we're all going through it, whether we want to do it or not. And we can torture ourselves if we want. And I did. I tortured myself. I thought I had to suffer through all of this. And I did it in a horrible way where I just wanted to die. And I want to try to intercept those who are going down that path, and give them knowledge that say, hey, I went through this. Maybe you can identify with a little bit of what I went through to help you along your journey as you go through it too. And I'm not trying to tell people how to do it for themselves. I'm sharing what I went through so that they can use whatever part of that they can on their own journey, because we're all going to experience it differently.
Okay, I'm going to make a reference here to the slide where you have the principles on top, the thoughts and emotions to either side. So you've got these principles, and they're feeding knowledge to our spirit. Is that correct? Is that the way that works?
They can go directly to our thoughts. They can go directly to our emotions. And they can take the knowledge into the spirit that we are choosing to walk with for that day.
Into whose spirit, though? Ours or some other entity?
The spirit that we are choosing for our nourishment on that day, whether that be positive or negative, because this is free will. We can choose whichever experience we want, and every day is different. Every day I wake up, I make a choice of whether I want it to be a positive experience or a negative experience, and which type of spirit do I want to walk through my day with.
Okay. And yet I still want to get to the bottom of something that isn't crystal clear for me. So you've got principles. That's one set of entities. You've got us, which is another set of entities, individualized. And then you've got spirit. Now, is spirit another entity unto itself?
Correct. You can look at the principles as the laws. They're carrying out the laws of the Creator, and they are the dictators. And the spirits are those who are the commander-in-chiefs of there are specific entities who take care of animals. There's specific entities that take care of the plants. The earth has, I don't know, a lot of people can define them as fairies and all these other type of entities. These are the spirits. And also you can look at the angels. There's certain levels of knowledge, and you can look at it from an energy source as well. As it becomes denser in our reality, the knowledge is carried down into the soul from our Creator, and the spirit provides that nourishment in whatever form that may be. That may be your guides that you plan to help you before you came into human form. But like the Ascended Masters, for example, they are in a group of a spiritual realm all to themselves to help guide us, but we have to ask for that guidance. We have to ask before we receive.
Okay, so you talked about spirit, but mainly I heard you talk about it from a beneficial perspective for us. But then you also discussed the idea of devils, demons, ghosts, etc. So these are entities that are not visible to us, and yet some of them come to us and have an influence on us in some way, presumably. Do they fit into that realm as well?
They do.
Okay.
They do.
All right.
And that's a whole other topic. I call it the battlefield. Our thoughts and our emotions, we're in the middle of a battlefield, because you've got, just like the picture of the devil on one side of your shoulder and the angel on the other, there's a lot of dark forces that they can call it is fighting for the soul. That's the ultimate goal. They want that source of who we are. And the uncertain people who are not sure what they believe, they're the ones that at great risk. And the reason they're at great risk is because They're being influenced by both sides. When those who have no belief, there's not going to be any lightness, any kind of positive sources. They're not even going to bother with you because you don't want that in your life. But the uncertain ones are the ones who are going back and forth from the light to the dark, the light to the dark, and that's a war within itself. And I've been on all sides of this, and now that I'm in the light per se, I have a protection now, and I have the knowledge now of what is occurring. And when I hear I call it all the different types of voices that come through me in a day, I can recognize the difference now. And I'll even say, that's a lie. I can't believe everything I think, because these dark forces are constantly in my head trying to make me believe that I'm not worthy, that I'm nothing, and I've shared that in other videos of wanting to hurt myself, or that's where all these mass shootings and all this other stuff is coming from. These are real entities at work in our lives. And just because we can't see them doesn't mean they're not there.
And this will be my last question. It's really something more for clarification. Here we go. On the one hand, we have, to simplify things, we have the idea that we want to think and feel in ways that are positive, that are beneficial for us and for others, presumably. Mm-hmm. And then on the other hand, we've got all this negative stuff that we've experienced, that we've kind of soaked in throughout our lifetime. So on the one hand, be good, do good, think good, like that. And on the other hand, purge all the crap, for lack of a better way of putting it. What I don't really hear a lot of is how to purge all that stuff. And I think you did talk about it to some extent, but maybe if you could address that specifically, and then we'll close things out.
It's doing an inventory of your entire life. That's what I had to do. I did a 12-step program because I'm very codependent. And that's where, actually, 12-step program is where I found the God of my understanding. It taught me how to take a look at myself, and it's a process. And once I was able to do that inventory, I had to take a look at everything that was mine, and we call it keeping my side of the street clean. And how do I cipher through what's mine and what's yours? And that's what this process is about, of cleaning up all of the things that I've done in my life and making amends for them as well, so that I can start from a fresh, it's almost like a confession kind of thing that you have to do. And the reason you have to do it is so that you can acknowledge for yourself. And once I vocalized things, some of the things weren't as bad as what they felt like they were inside. But some of the things were pretty messed up that I went through. And to be able to acknowledge that with another person helped me heal, helped me learn how to heal from all of the things that I had went through. Like I said before, I grew up in foster care. I did not handle things well. I had a juvenile delinquent record. They wanted to lock me away into a juvenile delinquent center at one point. I was physically destroying things. I was so angry with my life. And by the time I got it together and thought my life was on a good track, that's when I ended up with breast cancer. And I'm like, why is all of this happening to me? But now, when I found the God of my understanding, I was provided the knowledge as to why I had to go through all of those things. And it's when you're going through it, you don't understand it. But when you do the inventory and you do the cleaning out of your past or my past, I'll just use myself as an example. What ends up happening is there's a greater good in all of it, because everything I went through, there's someone I'm going to meet in the day that I can help because of my experience, strength, and hope. And patients that I deal with, I mean, even down to the cancer, I deal with a lot of cancer patients. I'll be like, I understand. It's not just saying it because I lived it. And that you can come out of this. And I try to be that example of how you can go through all of this suffering and turmoil, and what my God does is heal. It takes it and turns it into something greater. And that's what I'm in the process of trying to do today, is to turn it into something that will help everyone. And cleaning out and looking at yourself is vital in this process as we move forward in this transition. That's all I can